This is YeahPete, and in my last video what I did was I completely redid the earthwork in my backyard, and in this video I am going to plant it to seed and we're going to see if it grows. I hope it does. The first thing that I do is I walk through and I pick up all the rocks. The next thing I did was I used a rake like this to kind of even everything out, all of the high spots. I didn't really have to do it too much because I used a heavy machine for that, but there were a couple places where I made a turn where you want to even that out, and you want like a nice fine dust, a fine layer on top that's not really hard. In this section I'm going to talk about choosing your grass seed. So first thing you need to do is look up what USDA plant zone you are in. I'm in zone 5. The next thing you need to do is determine if you need full sun, full shade, or a mixture of each. And mine is going to be a mixture of each, so both. Then you got to think about what kind of durability. You know, thin blades look a lot nicer, they cut a lot nicer, they just look great. But thicker blades are a lot more durable, and I'm talking about grass blades, like the thickness of the grass blades. So I'm going with thick blades. The deepest roots for drought tolerance. So the deeper your roots, the longer they can go before drying out. Now if you're gonna, if you're one of them people who water every day, that's up to you. I don't water. I don't give a crap, so I'm going for drought tolerance. And then another thing is reasonable price. Some of these seeds cost 3 times as much. So with all that being said, I ended up going with Kentucky 31 for my lawn. And I think one of the downsides, if it is a downside, is it has a lighter green color. So some people might not like the color, they want that dark green color, so I thought I'd put that in there. I don't know, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm a risk taker like that. Alright, we got nightfall coming around, so it's a little cooler out. I can actually get some stuff done here. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to spread this at night. Now, I have some starter fertilizer. I probably should have went with lime, but I went with starter fertilizer. I think I'm going to lime it in the fall after I do get my soil test in. I don't have a soil test, so I'm just going with starter fertilizer to kind of be safe. Now, when you look at the back of your starter fertilizer, you notice I have this cheap Scott's Speedy Green 2000 spreader. Now, Scott's Speedy Green Rotary, it has a setting here. Setting for is going to be 4.5. So what I'm going to do is, this thing has it here where I can change the setting. 4.5. So now this is set for what I need it. There's different ways to apply this. The proper way and the half-arsed way. I prefer to do it the half-arsed way because it takes less time and I can get on with my life. So some people the proper way is divide your lawn into sections and properly measure each thing, okay? Well, what I did is I just calculated the whole entire square foot that I need of fertilizer, and I know that I just need 1 bag and a half a bag. So I need 1.5 bags. So that all I have to do is just walk around back and forth evenly until the 1.5 bags is gone. And that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to see how that turns out in a month. After we apply our fertilizer, now we're going to be seeding. And I chose Kentucky 31 for its durability, mainly the durability. That's what I'm going to use. So for settings on this rotary spreader, I could not find them, but it is not rocket science, people. Basically, all I have to do is I know I have 2 bags of grass seed, and I have to cover my whole area with these 2 bags. I bought a 3rd bag because I'm going to have some sloughing and stuff, and bare spots that I'm going to fill in later. So it's good to get a little extra. Now, why am I seeding in the middle of the night? Well, to freak out my neighbors, that's why. So, and it's not 95 degrees. It's cooler right now, so I want to get this done and then get my straw mat out there first thing in the morning because it's hot and miserable out right now. It is morning, and here's my hand to compare here. This is what it should look like. Well, what I think a good seed mix looks like. I seeded it a little heavy, but this is kind of bad soil, so I'm not going to get the best germination. You can also see the fertilizer. Here is what the backyard looks like after you put the blanket on. And at the bottom here I put a straw mat. So I'll show you a couple things. Here's the other type of blanket I used. I think I like this kind better. It's a lot thicker and you can actually walk on it. It's slightly tacky, so you can walk on it after you staple it in. I left an area without blanket so we can kind of compare the difference with just straw on a hill and with the blanket on a hill. So that'll be a nice comparison. You can connect multiple hoses to it, and it has a timer and everything with sprinklers, so it'll just time, it'll just turn on when you program it. How often do you need to water when you first plant grass? The first week you want to do 4 times a day. You want to keep the soil pretty much saturated with water. You want to keep it moist at all times. Week 2, we move to 2 times a day. Week 3, 1 times a day. Now when you start getting into just 1 time a day, you want to do it first thing in the morning. Like start at like 5 a.m. so that you don't really want the soil to be completely soaked for all night. So it's best to do it in the morning. And you want to slowly taper off that water because you want the roots to grow down. And you want to encourage roots to grow deeper. So that's why when you start doing it like 1 time a day, you need that to increase the amount of water that is flowing. Week 4, you do every other day. Week 5, every 3 days. And week 6, just do once a week. Well, if you're cheap like me. I mean, if you like to water all the time, then you could probably do it every 3 days in the morning. But I like to do once a week, and then in the summertime I don't water my grass at all because I'm cheap. Now, how long do we water it for? I like the sprinklers that go all the way around, and this is what I just use as like a general guide for my particular water pressure. Yours might be different, but so a sprinkler head that sprays all the way around in a full circle, I do that one in 45 minutes. Now, if I'm doing just half of, like it's going back, forth, half of that, I'll do 23 minutes. And then if I have the sprinkler at a corner and it's just going like this, then I'll do 12 minutes. And if I'm not throwing water as far, like if it's, if this is the full spread, if I go in a little bit, then I'll probably decrease the amount of time a little bit, because there is such a thing as too much water. You don't want to waste too much water. So I think this is a good amount. I was originally doing it for 1 hour, and I found that just ended up being just a little too much water. So I bumped that down to 45 minutes, and that seemed to work pretty good for me. Funny thing happened right after I laid the straw down and it was gonna rain. A storm blew in and literally blew all my straw away. That's why the blanket is so important. So that stinks. I was thinking about buying more straw, but I figured I'd wait it out and see what happens. And it's been about 10 days, maybe 11 days since I started watering. And if I zoom in here, the grass is coming up pretty good. Maybe not as thick as it should. It's thicker in some areas. A spot here. Look at how much better it's doing with the blanket. Look at that. That's already almost 3 inches long here. But here, without the blanket, it's only about 1 inch long. The slope of the hill with the blanket. You can see a lot of grass growing. I hope it shows it. It's bright out here, so I can't really see very well. But the grass on this side, it's growing great here. And it's been 10-11 days. Walk around here to see, and look at how thick it is doing there. I guess the most important part was getting if you don't put enough staples in your blanket, it's gonna lift up, the grass will lift up the blanket. But the most important part for me was getting grass growing on the slope, and that's what happened. So that's good. This area looks really good. Here is week 3 on the other side. I have not mowed or anything. There's like weeds growing there, but it's doing not bad here. This is the shadier side of the house. And I have the hose set up here, but here's the area. This was all bare where this is covered, and it's coming in nice and thick. Here's the area that I'm most concerned about. I remember earlier I talked about thinking about maybe putting more seed down here. I decided not to do that. I just left it. It's gonna be fall in a couple more months, and that's when I'll do another seeding. I didn't want to waste my seed, but you can see how much thinner it comes in when you don't have straw. Here's another area where you can look at the difference, where I have 2 mats and then an area that doesn't have a mat, and you can see it's just coming in way more where the mats are than where I don't have any kind of, I even put straw here. It all just got blowed away. And here's what it looks like 3 weeks later from this side. The most important part was getting grass growing on the slope, and luckily I have that, so I'm pretty happy about that. I just got done mowing. This is week 5, and this is what it looks like. This is probably the best spot here. Filled in really nice. And then this is the worst. Probably the worst spot right here. Which is, you know, not that much, not that bad. Spot here got filled in really nice. Here's the slope. It ended up getting filled in pretty good. This is where I did the experiment with the blanket and without the blanket. The sprinklers did not reach this area, so the grass is pretty thin here. It's definitely a lot thicker right on the blanket side. I think that pretty much concludes the grass growing videos. I think the next video I'll do on this grass area is in the fall, when I'll do some overseeding and leveling. If this video helped you, please help me by liking and subscribing. And this grass was planted in the worst possible time to plant in my area, which is in July. Okay, you do not want to plant, you usually don't want to plant grass in July, but it is possible, and you can get a pretty good stand of grass as long as you do proper watering.